Welcome back, guys. Have you noticed anything? Nothing? I don't care. Hope you're all doing great today. Let's continue. Today's story is The Hand That Rules or Riles the World. Okay. Many of our great men, said I, apropos of many things, have declared that they owe their success to the aid and encouragement of some brilliant woman. I know, said Jeff Peters. I've read in history and mythology about Joan of Arc and me, double M. Yale and Mrs. Caudley, Caudley, and Eve and other noted females of the past. But in my opinion, the woman of today is of little use in politics or business. What's what's she best in anyway? Man makes the best cooks, milliners, nurses, housekeepers, stenographers, clerks, hairdressers, and launderers. About about the only job left that a woman can beat a man in can beat a man in is female impersonator in vaudeville. I would have thought, said I, that occasionally anyhow you would have found the wit and intuition of woman invaluable to you in your lines of her business. No, wouldn't you? Said Jeff with with an emphatic nod. Wouldn't you have imagined that? But a woman is an absolutely unreliable partner in any straight swindle. She is liable to turn honest to she is liable to turn honest on you when you are depending upon her the most. I tried them once. Bill Humble, one old friend of mine in the territories, conceived the illusion that he wanted to be appointed United States Marshal. At that time, me and Andy was doing a square, legitimate business of selling walking cans. Canis. If you unscrewed the head of one and turn it up to your mouth, a half pint of good rye whiskey would go trickling down your throat to reward you, trickling down your throat to reward you for your act of intelligence. The dep, deputies, deputes, deputes was annoying me and Andy some. And when Bill spoke to me about his officious aspirations, I saw how the appointment as marshal might help along the firm of Peters and Tucker. Jeff, says Bill to me, are you a man of learning and education, besides having knowledge and information concerning not only rudiments, but facts and attainments? I do so, says I, and I have never regretted it. I'm not the one, says I, who would cheapen education by making it free. Tell me, says I, which is the most value of banking, literature, or house racing? Why are playing the pool? I mean, of course, the poets and the great writers have got the call, of course, says Bill. Exactly, says I. Then why do the masterminds of finance and philanthropy, says I, charge us $2 to get into a racetrack and let us into a library free? Is that distilling into the masses? Says I. A correct estimate of the relative value of two means of self-culture and disorder. You are arguing outside of my faculties of sense and her rhetoric, says Bill. What I wanted you to do is to go to Washington and dig out this appointment for me. Sorry, I haven't no ideas of cultivation and intrigue. I'm a plain citizen and I need the job. I've killed 7 men, says Bill. I've got 9 children. I've been a good Republican ever since the 1st of May. I can't read nor write and see no reason why I ain't liable for the office. And I think your partner, Mr. Tucker, goes on, Bill, is also a man of sufficient ingratitude and connected system of mental delinquency to assist you in securing the appointment. I will give you preliminary, says Bill. 1,000 for drinks, briefs, and car fare in Washington. If you land the job, I will pay you 1,000 more cash down and guarantee you impunity and bootlegging whiskey for 12 months. Are you patriotic to the West enough to help me put this thing through the whitewashed wigwam of the great father of the most eastern flag station on the Pennsylvania Railroad, says Bill. Well, I talked to Andy about it, and he liked the idea immense. Andy was a man of an involved nature. He was never content to plod along, as I was, selling to the peasantry some little tool like a combination stake, beater, shoehorn, Marcel Waver, monkey wrench, nail file, potato masher, and multum in Prava tuning fork. And he had the artistic temper artistic temper, which is not to be judged as a preacher's or a moral man's is by purely commercial deflections. So we accepted Bell's offer and strikes out for Washington. Says I to Andy when we got located at a hotel on South Dakota Avenue, GSSW. Now, Andy, for the first time in our lives, we've got to do a real dishonest act. Lobbying is something we've never been used to, but we've got to scandalize ourselves for Bill Humble's sake. In a straight and legitimate business, says I, we could afford to introduce a little foul play and chinancery. But in a disorderly and high-nose piece of malpractice. Like this, it seems to me that the straightforward and above-board way is the best. I propose, says I, that we hand over 500 of this money to the chairman of the National Campaign Committee. Get a receipt, lay the receipt on the president's desk and tell him about Bill. The president is a man who would appreciate a candidate who went about getting office that way instead of pulling wires. And they agreed with me, but after we talked the scheme over, the scheme over with the hotel clerk, we give that plan up. But after we talked the scheme over with the hotel clerk, we give that plan up. He told us that there was only one way to get an appointment in Washington, and that was through a lady lobbyist. He gave us the address of one he recommended, a Mrs. Avery, who he said was high up in sociable and diplomatic rings and circles. The next morning at 10 o'clock, me and Andy called at her hotel and was shown up to her reception room. This Mrs. Avery was a solace and a balm to the eyesight. She had hair the color of the black of $20 gold certificate, blue eyes, and a system of beauty that would make the girl on the cover of a July magazine look like a cook on a monogalia coal barge. She had on a low-neck dress covered with silver spangles and diamond rings and earbuds. Her arms was bare, and she was using a desk telephone with one hand and drinking tea with the other. Alright, guys, that was the first part of the story, and we're gonna continue tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.